One of the most well-known phrases that chaos magic is known for, aside from nothing is true, everything is permitted, is using belief as a tool. And I think it's really important that we remember this as chaos magicians, because in a world where we have lots of information coming at us and sometimes it can feel like we're stuck in what we can and can't do, I think it's important that we come back to this maxim, if you want to call it that, because belief is ultimately what we can use as chaos magicians to inform the magic that we do. So I want to talk about why remembering and leaning on the maxim of belief as a tool is so important when it comes to magic. The first reason is that it helps you decide what serves the magic best. If you think about traditions like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or even grimoires that list out the things that you need, or you need to do X ritual before you do the main magical working. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that, but it might get you stuck in a place of thinking that that's the only way of doing it. That's the correct way and that's it. But when we use belief as a tool, it helps us to think about, if I believe X, does this help me to do the magic? And for me, it's a really weird thing. I don't think that I have ever forced myself to believe any part of the magic that I do. It has just been something I believe. There might be things that I've read about and then things just resonate with me and then I adopt them. Whereas if a working was asking me to believe in something and I really didn't, I wouldn't do it. If I can't believe in it, I can't immerse myself in it. And then I do think that will affect the magic. And when we think about what serves our magic best, this really helps us to experiment with different paradigms, with different ways of working. So I have done devotionals to the Greek pantheon. I've done devotions to individual Greek gods and goddesses. Experimenting and trying things out and then deciding something doesn't work for you is not a failure. It's you deciding what doesn't work for you and looking for the next thing. And this leads me on to the next reason, which is that belief as a tool encourages us to experiment. And I do think it helps to reduce that sense of analysis paralysis. And I have got stuck in analysis paralysis myself. And I do think it comes from getting caught up in questions like, am I using the right correspondences? Should I work with this deity or that deity? Do I need to follow this ritual exactly as it's written, or can I change it? I think it helps us to get unstuck from following things blindly, asking questions and trying things out and seeing if they work. I remember watching a video, and I don't know if it was Kellyanne Maddox or it may have been Ivy Corvus, talking about correspondences, and I think something like using lavender in a particular working because it's associated with calm. But if someone really doesn't like the smell of lavender, or it brings up difficult memories for a person, then it's going to be unlikely that using lavender in a ritual to evoke calm is going to be helpful. So choosing something else that the person feels connects them in with that calm is going to be much more helpful. So it may not be the classical correspondences that we read in the books, but if it works for us, I think that's far more useful than forcing ourselves to use something just because a book has told us we need to use it. I would add though, if you're looking to achieve a particular goal and there's an existing working out there that other people have done many times over that would address it, maybe it's worth trying that out. If there's nothing that you're particularly averse to in the working, try it out and see what the results are. Reason number 3 for using belief as a tool is that it means you can change your mindset or your paradigm to suit your needs. And I think this is one of the most interesting aspects of chaos magic, because if a belief is something you can deliberately adopt, then you can use different belief systems to pick the paradigms that you think will work best for a particular problem or goal and use those. Like I said before, I have done devotional work and workings with gods and goddesses from the Greek pantheon. I have done devotional practices to the planets, and I've recently restarted that. And those workings have all been for different aims, but my belief in them, I feel, is what has helped the work the most. But like I say, I've never tried to force myself to believe in those things. There is something about them that resonates with me, so they're easy for me to adopt. I think maybe the problem might come where we try to force ourselves to believe a certain thing and try to shift our mindset in a way that just doesn't feel right. I think a lot of this is to do with how it feels for us on a physiological level. Where we might get caught up is in thinking, well, which of these paradigms or models is objectively true? Personally, I don't think we can ever know. None of them may be true, but does it really matter? Because Chaos magic isn't really interested in whether something is true. It's about whether it works. Reason number 4 is something I say in some of my content, is that you can take what resonates and discard what doesn't. All the things I talk about, they're my personal belief, they're based on my experiences, and I never want people to feel that they have to do what I'm said I've done, or they have to agree with what I say. We believe different things. My beliefs aren't better than anybody else's, and vice versa. And a lot of the time, I can't even tell you why certain things resonate and other things don't. But what I do listen to myself is what resonates, what feels good for me, what sort of seems to flick a switch in my mind, and something has inspired me about what I've heard, and that draws me to it. The next reason is that I've touched on previously, is that it helps you to hone your intuition and what feels right. So my biggest question about belief as a tool is whether we can force ourselves to believe something in order to perform magic. And like I've said before, I can't. Maybe some of you out there have been able to, and been able to really focus in on a particular belief and then discard it once you've done the magic. So for example, if I was averse to a certain religious paradigm, could I force myself to believe in it if it got the job done? Or maybe I wouldn't have to believe in the whole paradigm as such. Maybe I could believe in one aspect of it. I don't know if I could force myself, whatever it was. So while certainly I wouldn't have to buy into a whole religious paradigm, there might be one element of it that resonates with me, and therefore I could work with that element. But if I didn't believe in that element, I wouldn't work with it. I just couldn't. Like I said before, over the years I've worked with Greek gods and goddesses because I've been drawn to Greek mythology since I was a child. But conversely, I've heard a lot about the Norse pantheon. I've read some of the stories about the pantheon. I know some of the gods and goddesses and what they symbolize, but for whatever reason, they don't resonate with me on a felt sense. I have no desire to work with them. That's not to say it's because I think they are lesser than the Greek gods and goddesses. I have no particular aversion to them at all, but they just don't resonate with me. I don't get a felt sense at all that I want to work with them. And that is okay, because I know there are plenty of people out there who do work with Norse gods and goddesses, and they absolutely get a lot out of that work. Remember that we are all going to believe different things. So if you have someone saying to you, you can't do this, you can't work with that entity, you can't use that correspondence, you need to use an affirme, you need to use a one, or whatever, I think people need to relax a little bit, because if we are chaotes, if we are true chaos magicians, we're not going to need to force other people into a way of doing things. We're not going to force ourselves into a certain way of doing things, because we've got that flexibility to discard the things that don't resonate and use what really works for us, what we can believe in and bring into our practice. Let me know in the comments if you've been able to do a particular piece of magic whilst really struggling to believe in the thing that you're doing. I'd really love to hear if anyone has actually managed to do that, because it's not something I could do, but I'd love to know if you've been able to do it and what you did in order to overcome that struggle to force yourself to believe in something, and how you managed to kind of keep that belief going for the time that you were doing the magical working. In the meantime, be well, and I will speak to you again soon.